Are we on? Okay, so we're gonna start. It's 7:08. We were to have a visitor, Eric Mitchell, to review the open space development conservation easement. Did everyone have a chance to look at that? And does anyone, if he shows up, do we have comments for him?
Have we heard from him?
Just that Judy thought he was coming.
Right.
I think he wants comments from us. I
Right.
think he's waiting on comments from us.
Yeah.
I don't really have any myself, but I guess I'm wondering if we could, even if he doesn't come, if we could give him some feedback, if, to the extent that we have any, and close this chapter.
Yeah, I think the larger question to me is whether we want to do a conservation warranty deed or whether we want to do an easement. And I can't figure it out.
How do we resolve that?
I don't know.
Let
Maybe
them make
it's
that
a-
decision?
Hmm?
Let him make that decision?
No, I don't think that's a good idea.
So what's the, how do we resolve that then?
I haven't had mind share to think about it. But I think that I don't have enough experience to know, and I don't know if anybody else here does. We're talking about 4 New Hampshire homes.
Deed restriction versus conservation.
Well, it's a warranty deed.
That's why I had asked Dan when he was here, you know, to try and capitalize on some of his knowledge, maybe last meeting, and he didn't raise any immediate red flags as to why you wouldn't do a warranty deed. So I don't know. I don't know either. I don't have enough experience.
Right.
Judy, you sent that email to give him all our contact information, and then didn't you send an email?
Oh, yes, I did.
Right after last meeting. Did he ever send anything else out after that? Because I didn't receive anything.
I didn't receive anything.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
No, I don't believe so. I asked him to respond to it just to make sure it was working, and
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss like another draft or something.
No.
But in looking at the one, I mean, if we were to go with the deed, in reviewing the one that he presented as a sample, I don't really see, I mean, I think it's smart and logical, and I don't really see any issues with the terms that are outlined in it. So, with the exception of hunting is prohibited, and that would just be a question
Oh,
of
that's a conservation easement deed, right?
the conservation
Warranty deed.
which,
Oh,
Warranty deed.
Yeah.
That's paragraph O. For O.
so that would just be a discussion about, you know, if it's town-owned land, if we want to allow hunting or not. But, you know, I think he had mentioned at the last meeting, there's the option to say it's all permitted, but at discretion of the town or something, there's some flexibility there, so. But if he's not here and doesn't need an answer yet, then,
Yeah, and the thing that I don't know the difference is, I haven't compared, and maybe you have, Haley, is the difference in the content between the deed and an easement.
right.
Because I mean, this is a list of things, I'm used to having things under categories like reserved rights and restricted, uses restricted, and I don't see these here. There's no discussion, for instance, of amendments and that kind of thing, and it's just, to me, I think it's up to the Conservation Commission and maybe some other people to decide what makes this the most easily managed for the town, is the question.
Well, who's got the responsibility to manage it? That's
We do.
ours?
Yeah,
Are we talking deed restriction versus conservation easement?
we're talking a conservation warranty deed.
That's nothing, except it's got things in there that who's gonna manage that? There's no, is there a provision in there for the town to do something?
Well, it says the town, general access is allowed, however, the grantee, the town retains the right to limit public access.
Well, I've always, I think the conservation easement is a stronger document. Maybe this is an exception that's reasonable because it's only 4 houses or 4 lots.
Well, no, the issue is it's 20-something acres,
27?
20-something, I don't remember the amount. I have them in here somewhere. But it's kind of floating at the moment, and it seems like an anomaly if we're working with easement lands around it.
Well, do we want to get into standardizing our documents for conservation easements, and we draft something up and?
Well, we kind of have a template.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is that I don't want him to come either tonight, well, tonight maybe, but I don't want him to come next month and
Right.
we're at the same place we are now, which is we don't really know what we want to do. And if it's up to us to make that decision, then I would like to have some sort of plan about what next steps are so that we can come to that decision.
I totally agree with you.
And I'm not clear from this conversation what that is.
I don't think it sounds like any of us know enough about the distinction between a warranty deed and a conservation easement, and the pros and cons of either to make a decision. So maybe a good first step would be that I could, reach out to the folks on the New Hampshire Land Trust Coalition and see if they have some insight as to why you would pick one over the other. So they have a pretty good listserv that I can send the question out to, and hopefully someone's bored and gets back to us with an answer, and I can share that with the group. So,
That'd be swell.
okay, so I'm happy to
That'd be
do that,
fantastic.
and,
What group
we'll
is this,
see if we
Haley?
get, it's the New Hampshire
Yeah.
Land Trust
Oh,
Coalition, so
okay, great.
it's just all folks who are working with this stuff
Yep.
a lot more than we are, so.
This is 27 acres.
Mhm.
And I happen to know a little bit about the background of another project that this document was used for in a different town. And so I'm feeling a little, like, I think it'd be prudent for us to do some really good homework,
Wow.
so.
Yeah, so I'll jump on that as soon as I can, and then hopefully via
Great.
email at least, we can have some progress between now and the next meeting. But maybe if we don't have a decision for Eric, I mean, we just tell him we're not ready yet at that
Well,
point
he's
or
not,
something.
he's not in a huge hurry right now
Right.
with the planning board, so we have bought a little time, and this has been on, not a back burner, but a middle burner for me, because just so much brain power have I these days, but I think more data would be helpful,
Okay, well,
and that's a wonderful way to, I couldn't think of a way to solve that problem.
Would the New Hampshire would NHACC, New Hampshire Association of Conservation
Yeah, Barbara
Commissions,
might-
maybe have information on that?
I can send her the same question and
Great,
Great.
just ask her the same thing and see.
Okay. Lovely.
According to last month's minutes, Dan Kern recommended having fewer initial deed restrictions and allowing the town to decide on permanent restrictions in the future.
Yeah, I know he said that, and it occurred to me, like, why don't we just put a conservation easement on it? Then it's all kind of in the same stuff
Yeah.
we're used to.
But then who owns it?
Town,
So town and then easement.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing something. I
We
mean, they're
wouldn't
thinking
have
about
a-
donating it to us.
It wouldn't be a housing group, right?
No,
No, I think that's
Well,
what they're trying to
that's-
avoid, so,
they don't want the
Yeah, they
headache
don't wanna
of
own it.
I
managing.
think 4 houses, that's easy to manage. If you had 150,
No, it's,
We'd be like
they
Cottonwood.
don't wanna keep it, they wanna give it away. They don't want the headache of having a homeowners association.
oh,
So the way
I
to
think they're,
easy,
yeah, they're doing it smart, it's whether
Yeah.
or not, maybe they're doing this approach because they think it's easier to just like give us the land with
Yeah.
the restrictions in place that we agree on, and it's nice and done and tidied up, as opposed to conveying the land to the town, and then we have to go through the process of a conservation easement. But,
Absolutely.
if we're willing to do it and we feel more comfortable with that process, then maybe we go that way. So, but we'll get some data hopefully soon on what the heck the difference is, and then
Yeah,
we'll go from there.
it just, I don't know enough to say.
okay.
It's on my list, I just didn't get to
We need a lawyer on the commission.
it. Land use lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, I guess depending on what you learn, Haley, I could contact Jim Raymond and ask him as well.
Yeah, let's wait and see. I think we can figure this out ourselves and then just confirm it with Jim personally as a way to save some money. Because I think it's ambiguous. He'll say either way works. Depends
Yeah.
on us.
Okay, so I'm just going down the agenda list here,
Yeah,
in order. So we're gonna, talk about Project 31, the By Marston Farm.
mhm.
And I guess what I would like to get from this is a understanding of where we are. So Kate, you sent out, a our to-do list, or an updated to-do list. So where are we? That's what we need to figure out. Maybe you know, or maybe I need to read this more carefully.
Oh, I think we're making progress. I have a couple of specific items that I want to talk about in advance of the planning board meeting on Wednesday. One is very pragmatic, which is about fees. And then the other is a little more, let me start with the to-do list, because that's longer rather than the fees thing. Okay, so we had a 2-page to-do list as a result of our meeting on the 23rd of January.
Yeah, so maybe we could just go through that and
Yep.
say where we are.
So is everybody familiar with this project and what we're talking about?
Yes, but I haven't seen that to-do list, so.
Right.
Yeah, this only went, so.
Yeah, which is fine.
Kate, myself, Kate and I met with Dan, Guile, and Sean
Mhm.
Labrie. And we came up with a to-do list. We didn't send this around, I guess we could have. We didn't, just because it was really to the group. Like, here are the things we need to do
Yeah.
to get this project done. And, Dan would like to have it done by March 31st, which I think is a short timeline, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, we all sat down, we put together, I think, a pretty clear timeline or to-do list, and I think we're just trying to tick through it, and I guess I'm just trying to figure out exactly where we are. So,
What are the big chunks?
I guess I can summarize this, Kate, and you can jump in. So we need to subdivide the 128 from the total, and I think that's what the planning board meeting is about.
Not the 14th, on the 28th.
What's happening on Wednesday?
I'm talking about fees on that day.
Okay, so it has to be subdivided, the 128 has to be subdivided from the 38, and that's happening on the 28th?
Yeah, the big chunk is 166 acres. And of that, 128 is going to be donated to the town as a town forest. And the 38, which is in the process of getting a conservation easement put on it through a variety of funding sources to be managed through Bear Paw and L-CHIP, will go to the future buyer, who will purchase it after the development rights are extinguished. So this Wednesday, the planning board agenda allowed the time, didn't really matter, but we didn't have time to get this figured out before the deadline, so it's been moved to the 28th of February to have that subdivision of the 128 as its
That,
future.
on the 28th, the planning board is going to make a decision as far as this, or grant the subdivision, or?
I can't say that. I'll say
No,
it's
no,
on
I
the
mean,
agenda.
is that the goal? Is that what?
It's on the
it's-
agenda as a subdivision, as a noticed public hearing.
Oh, it's a public hearing on the
Yes.
28th, so
Correct.
228.
Regular subdivision, but it's completely unusual.
So Kate's been working that angle.
Yes.
Um,
That's the first chunk, is to chop off 128 from 166, which leaves 38.
And maybe embedded in all of that, you already said this, but we also need to assign the existing LSIP conservation easement that's currently on the 128 to another entity, which I don't fully understand, but Dan is looking into, supposedly.
And I very much would like to amend the existing conservation easement if possible and add some other things to it. Since it was done in the late 80s, in the early days of conservation easements, and could stand a little improvement.
Is there a provision in there to adjust? No?
There's nothing that says you can, there's nothing that says you can't. It's silent.
Why do we need to do that?
To adjust it?
Yeah.
Because we need to assign the conservation easement to another entity.
That's not, I don't think that's necessarily true, because she's conveying that, the fee, she's conveying the fee, her fee interest to the town. And then just, and that's just supposed to be with an executory interest conveyed to LCHIP. That's according to Dan's quickie email, that you thanked him for defining.
Right.
That was what it is. So, the town is getting a warranty deed from the owner to the 128 acres, which is conserved. So the conservation easement, from the way I understand it, isn't being conveyed to another interest. An executory, the LCHIP's getting an executory interest, but the town's getting the land.
Won't Bear Paw have executory too?
He said it's just an executory interest conveyed to LCHIP.
Who holds the current easement?
Pardon?
Who holds the current easement?
Town does, right?
No, because it's, no, I guess.
The current one.
LCIP, I thought.
No,
It's conveyed-
the town holds the easement on it.
Yeah, so then we,
It's conveyed to the town.
It was conveyed to the town. The
So we
easement was
maintain the
conveyed to
easement.
Town.
Well, what's the role of LCIP then?
That's what I was talking to you about earlier. They want an executory interest on both
Not
parcels.
LCIP.
In this case, LCHIP, to give the 50,000, wants an executory interest
I understand.
on that parcel.
But what is the role, isn't Steve Walker and LCIP involved in the Great Brook monitoring? And isn't this part of Great Brook?
It's part of Great Brook, yes.
So LCIP must have a role.
It's
This is
not in
what-
the deed.
This is what Dan said, assign existing LCIP conservation easement to another entity.
Correct.
so, yeah.
But then later he emailed something other than that.
What do you mean, Judy?
He sent an email. His email is, I am not sure that I can follow the email chain, but here's what I understand. There is no need or plans for a new survey. We're just going to have the current lines blazed and the corner monuments found and replaced. That's one. Two, the buy property needs to be divided along the boundary of the Pendleton Conservation Easement. The Pendleton easement area will be conveyed to the town with an executory interest to LCHIP, and the remainder of the buy property will be covered by a Bear Paw Conservation easement with executory interests to LCHIP and the town. I think this needs to be a subdivision. It will actually be easier to go through that process than try to convey the area to be covered by the new conservation easement to another owner. That's his January 30th email.
Yeah.
He clarified the questions that came up from your meeting.
But, yes, but maybe I'm just not my field, but who holds the current executory interest?
There's not one named in the deed.
There is none listed?
No.
Doesn't Steve Walker
It just references,
oversee the monitoring of this through the
yes,
LCIP?
but there's not an executory interest specifically stated in the deed. It just says that that the easement was conveyed pursuant to the RSA that was in place when Elsa.
To
So
my
it's
mind,
probably,
that
it's
means-
probably in there, but that RSA has been repealed and it no longer exists.
Well,
But I'm sure that the requirements of it are still intact.
I also feel like this was Dan's to do, and he can figure it out, and if we need to do
Good.
something, he'll let us know.
maybe. I just want to be sure, because it seems to me, I hope he's talking to Steve Walker to be sure. I'm sure this has happened before in the many years since LCIP closed its doors. I just want to be sure that there's a communication chain that confirms that LCIP is comfortable with LCHIP stepping in. That's my concern. Just want to be sure that everybody's on the same page.
It's in, what I'm referring to is in the last lines of the first paragraph of the,
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that. It's kind of the same way
FYI.
that, in my little brain, I remember McEnany did the survey in 1991, which was a easement. It was not a survey subdivision. But we were able to save a lot of money by using that same survey in 2018 to do a subdivision. And so what I'm saying is, in my mind, LCIP is the holder of the original conservation easement, and I haven't seen anything that contradicts that. So,
What do you see to support it? It's not in the easement.
it is, it's in the RSA. But what I want to do is to make sure that we contact LCIP, Steve Walker, or somebody else. I'm sure there's a precedent for having this
Is there a
happen.
relationship between LCHIP and
No.
LCIP? Did
Uh,
one become the other, or?
Well, Steve Walker's on the LCHIP group board, so there must be.
Maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
So, Kate, I've got that email up, and I want to respond to Dan right now so we can follow this up. What do I say? I'm not really sure I know what to ask. Have you followed up, or have you talked with Steve Walker at LCIP about,
To just confirm that it's possible to convey a new executor of interest to LCHIP? And does LCIP need to be involved? I think that's what we're talking about.
You asked.
Wait, your question is to ask if it's possible to convey it to LCIP? We don't
That's
know if
what-
it needs to be.
That's what Dan's proposing, is executor of interest is conveyed to LCHIP.
Oh, so what about LCIP? I thought you said that.
I don't mean to laugh, but this is like,
Okay, let's try
this is
again.
like, what's their name, who's on first?
Yeah, right. I don't know who's on second. I know. So,
It is my understanding, very weak understanding, that because the Pendleton easement was created during the days of the LCIP between 1987 and 1992, somewhere, that LCIP has some interest because they're also involved in the annual monitoring of this.
Mhm.
We have to submit information from monitoring Great Brook, Al Yeager does, to LCIP every year. So I just want to be sure that there's a full communication loop that allows executory interest to be conveyed from LCIP to LCHIP,
CHIP?
as Dan is proposing in his email. That's all I'm trying to do. Yes, that's his idea.
Okay, this
Does that
email's
make
going.
sense?
Yes, and I just wrote that to him. So have
Okay.
you talked with Steve Walker at LCIP about conveying an executory interest to LCHIP, and does LCIP need to be involved?
Right.
Right.
And since you're whacking that machine, could you also ask him, is there an opportunity to amend the conservation easement during this process?
The LCIP conservation easement?
LCIP conservation, existing LCIP conservation
Is there
easement.
an
Thank you.
opportunity to amend the existing LCIP easement document?
Beautiful. Thank you, all.
And remind me, I don't know if we need to say it here, but what do you want to amend? Or why do you want to amend it?
Well, for one thing, there's the issue of trails. My little bullet down here said, I was asked if the easement can be modified to include the new trail sighting information. And there might be some other things.
Okay, that email just went, so we'll get an answer to that hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
what do you
Okay.
think the cost of that would be, additional cost?
Additional cost of amending the easement?
Yeah,
Our
over and
time.
above having two easements.
Oh, no, I don't think it would be two easements. I think it would be the existing easement with some amendments.
No, if we didn't merge the two, if we had a separate easement on the 38.
No, we're not talking about the 38 at all here. This is just the 128 acres.
I thought it was 128. and you were talking about amending the easement to include the 38.
No.
What are you amending?
Don't believe me, this project is the most complicated one I've ever
Okay,
dealt with
no,
since
the question is-
1987, so it's not a problem.
Okay.
So, the two chunks, 128 goes to town forest, goes to the town. The 38 is still owned by Galby. After the legal transactions that extinguish the development rights by putting a conservation easement on it, to be held by Bear Paw, funded by L-Chip and others, she will sell that 30 acres to Sean Labrie and Michelle, who own the existing 15 acres at the center of that 30 acres, and they'll have 15 plus 38 in their farm.
But there will be two separate easements. One, the existing one on the 128, which we're asking if we can amend,
That's
and then a
LSIP.
new one on the
The
38.
amendment then is
Bear
to
Paw.
just change the easement today on the 128 acres.
Just to
Yes.
Right.
add some more
Add
updated
some more
language and
Okay, so that's my
parameters.
question.
Yeah,
Is to take the language from 1991 and bring it into the 21st century.
I think the cost would simply be our time.
Okay, we don't need to go to an attorney for that, except at the end to make sure it's legit, okay. Just
Right.
Seeing how that comes together.
Yep.
Okay, the next item, which maybe Judy can provide some insight into, is that separate, I believe, from the planning board hearing on the subdivision, we also have to have a public hearing to accept the 128 acre gift, the donation.
Yes.
We also need to have a public hearing to approve conservation fund expenditures for the 38. And we also need to accept, the town needs to accept executory interest in the 38. We were unclear whether these could all be one public hearing or whether they had to be three separate ones, and Judy was gonna talk with John about
They
that.
need to be separate. They do need to be separate. We need to have ours for the hearing that would, on the expenditure of conservation funds for the easement on the 38 acres. We're paying to extinguish the rights.
Right,
So
we
we're
have to
not,
do-
we're not purchasing land there, but we are purchasing,
Yep, that's one thing
Yeah.
we have to do, but we also
So
have
that's
to
one.
we have to accept, the town has to accept the.
and that's a
the-
Board of Selectmen's one. And that will have to be separate. They have to have theirs at their meeting.
Oh, you're saying the approval of conservation fund expenditures does not go through the Board of Selectmen, it goes through
We have a hearing
as part of our meeting?
as part of our meeting. And after that, after we get input from the town, then we present a letter or a memorandum outlining what we're doing to the Board of Selectmen. With the boys, we did it backwards. So we presented a letter to them first, and they said, we want you to have a public hearing first. So we know that has to happen first. So we have to have our hearing first, give them, outline what the public hearing, what was the results of the public hearing, give that to the Board of Selectmen, and then the Board of Selectmen give their blessing on what we're doing.
Okay, then we need to get this on our, wish we had done that tonight. We need to get a public hearing on our agenda for the next meeting,
Yes.
so the March meeting.
I need a minimum of 10 days,
Correct.
probably 2 weeks, in order
This
to
is
get
good
it.
usually.
And it's 10 days for this, 10 days, not including the date of the hearing or the first date of publication.
March 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so let's plan to do it at our next meeting.
And I'll get some language together for the notice, and then you can approve it. And I'll get it to John, and John will send it to the Concord
Except
Monitor.
that I'm not here the 12th, so I don't know if you want to have the meeting anyway, which
I
I
won't be
think,
here either.
Whoop-a-doop-boop. What's happening on the 12th that we're missing, Haley?
I've got nothing.
I'm going to Africa.
Meetings. Oh.
It's the day before the town vote.
Great.
Gonna have an absentee ballot, Sarita?
I guess I'll need to, because I'll be in Denmark, so.
Yeah. But I'm running for
You're going
planning
to
board.
Denmark?
Hmm?
You're going to Denmark?
You're going to Africa.
I'm going to Concord.
I'm going to planning board election. What's wrong with me? Okay, so
I've got a question.
how about, wait, let's figure out the date.
Well, can the 5th or the 19th work?
Well, if we have a quorum, why can't you just do it on the 12th, even if I'm not here?
Will we have a quorum is the question.
Well, you need 4, and if you 3 and Ben are here, that's a quorum.
I'm gonna vote the next day, so I know I'll be here.
Yeah, we just need to make sure Ben will
Can
be
you,
here.
can you
And
whack
he's
'em?
usually here if he's not sick,
Yeah.
so I think you should plan to do it, otherwise it just squirrels up the schedule again. I'm not here on the 19th either, so.
Okay. Fine, we'll leave DCC.
L-chip money is solely for which,
38,
for 38?
yes, sir.
But then you're saying there needs to be a separate hearing to accept the gift of land?
Yep, so,
That would be a Board of Selectmen's,
So we don't have to do that, the Board of Selectmen
the
needs
Board
to have
of
that hearing?
Selectmen do.
no, but we have to
But
get
we
on
have to
their,
poke them
we have
to
to
do
get
that.
on their, we have to get on their
Yeah.
agenda, so I think, can we do that ASAP?
I'll request it from John,
Mhm.
but someone's gonna have to make the commitment to go in and present this.
Sure, I mean,
Uh,
as long
And,
as I'm
and the
here, I usually do that.
the executory interest too.
Right, and so the question is whether those two things can happen at the same time, or they have to be separate public hearing.
Well, you can do separate back-to-back. I've seen that done before.
Okay, so then just ask John to get on the BOS meeting at the next available time, and I will be there, as long as I'm not out of town, but,
Well, the question is, does it have to be a select board public hearing or just a meeting?
it's to be a public hearing, I believe.
So then they need some noticing requirements there too.
And then they will need to know what an executory interest is too. But I've got that covered, so.
So, so just to summarize so that I'm clear, there's going to be a public two back-to-back public hearings at the next available Board of Selectmen meeting to accept the gift of the 128 acres and to accept executory interest in the 38 acres. And so, yes, we'll need some language around both of those. I don't know if Guile should be here because she's donating the land, but we might wanna, invite her to participate.
And there's an L-chip, that's a separate, another hearing on the money from L-chip,
That's ours. That's
we
gonna
have
be,
it here.
we have that one.
sort of.
They've already accepted the gift, oh no, that was the anonymous
Found
gift.
them.
They've already accepted the anonymous donation.
Yes.
Yeah, they did that,
They did, they had. a
But
public
they've
hearing.
also accepted, I think, the L-chip.
Mm-mm.
I don't think so.
Hold the phone, let me see, I was at some meeting, what was I doing?
That was the anonymous gift of,
That was-
in
yeah, that was the
excess of $10,000.
Hold on, let me look at my.
Hearing, or was it just a election?
It was a
No,
hearing.
it was a public hearing.
And I have a copy of the minutes, so.
Look at all my paper. Do I have it in here?
So actually, that means we need to have 3 public hearings, is that what you're saying? One to accept the L-chip money,
That's ours.
along with our
And then
approval
a
of expenditures.
presentation to them. And then they need to accept the gift of land. And then they'll need to accept the gift of,
Hold on, this was the 8th of January, 2018. And it was the Marston Farm grant for the Conservation Commission. I'm pretty sure it was the L-chip.
No, it was the anonymous donation, because Rachel emailed me in a bit of a panic saying that we only had like a few days to accept it and that we needed to do it through the Board of Selectmen, and we got that all set up.
and John said that, I asked him how that came about. And he said that he was contacted directly from the foundation.
Public hearing held unanticipated donations over 10,000. Grant from an anonymous donor at the Charitable Foundation. Okay. Because I talked about the L-chip grant as well, but you're right, the official topic of this public hearing is the money from the anonymous donation. And so that raises the question in my little brain, do we have to do a separate hearing to accept the LCHIP money?
That's what she just said, so.
I know.
This is at our next meeting, we will have a public hearing to both accept the LCHIP funds and to expend conservation funds.
We don't have a hearing to accept
I thought that's what you
the,
just said.
the funds. The Board of Selectmen has a hearing to accept the funds, just like they did for the anonymous money.
Okay, I misunderstood what you said
Yeah.
then. So we need 3 public hearings at Board of Selectmen meetings. 1, to accept the gift of the 128 acres. 1, to accept the LCHIP funds. And 1, to accept the executory interest in the 38 acres.
Yes.
Okay, and then the Conservation Commission has to have 1 public hearing to approve conservation fund expenditures for the 38 acres. So that's 4 public hearings.
Yeah.
Hopefully, again, the 3 for the BOS can be back-to-back at whatever meeting is available, the next available slot.
Okay, I think there's some light shining upon our complexity. That's
Mhm.
great, Sarita, thank you.
Who will be putting together the information for the Board of Selectmen?
I will have to do that. So once we have a date, I will do that.
And they should probably get that ahead of their, okay.
Or are we nearing the end of the conversation with Marston? Because I have one other
We've
thing.
got your memo to talk about, I think.
Yeah, we're not, let me just finish getting this down so that I'm not
Yeah.
confused anymore.
Right.
I just emailed Ben to confirm he can be at that next meeting date, so as long as he's in, we can.
As long as he's, yeah, great.
Hope it's not still sick.
Yeah, that'd be a long haul,
Pretty
yeah.
painful.
Today is 12.
Almost there.
Take your time.
Yeah, they probably put all 3 in one meeting.
While she's taking her time, I want to thank you both and congratulate you on the Northern Pass.
We just did work, that's all.
Yeah,
And rolling, thank you.
well, thank you.
No, not just work. We both spent most of the last 2 years full-time
Right, that's
on this. And
I-
unfortunately, it hasn't gone away because there's a
I
lot of
know,
politics.
I know, but
Just, it's like,
To
more
what,
stakes don't help.
to what degree of detail do I go into with?
But yes,
with the-
thank you.
With the particulars?
But it's stunning,
Yes.
stunning.
I don't know.
Turn
We'll
around.
Keep it brief.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll have a public congratulatory little thingy at the end so that that gets in the minutes, but,
sorry.
no, that's fine.
I can't stick to the
thunder.
agenda.
So Dan's working on, just to continue on this, Dan's working on the deed, on preparing the deed. He's working on blazing the property lines, putting together maps and photographic documentation, doing an environmental assessment, title work and insurance, and preparing the conservation easement, which we will all have an opportunity to look at and amend at some point.
Is that from the previous, or is he writing you back?
Hmm?
Is that from the meeting?
Yeah, that's on
Okay,
this
that's for
document.
that stuff, okay.
And then Kate, you had one other thing?
I did. It's around money. So to try to keep it clear, the proposed subdivision will be before the planning board. It's on the agenda for the 20th of February. I would like to have a conversation with the Conservation Commission to bring to the planning board on the 14th of February around the fees for that subdivision. Right now, they're about $1,000. $500 for the town planner, $200 for the application itself, $100 to create the lot, which is $800, which is most of the money. And then there's some other stuff which I'll talk about. And so I would like to make a proposal to the planning board around that, because this is an unusual subdivision. It's not to create commercial or residential property, it's to create a town forest
Which is being donated to us.
being donated to the town, exactly. So, the person donating it, Guile By, normally would pay the $1,000. And I would like to propose, in the interest of time, instead of having a conversation, that you empower me to request that the planning board waive the town planner and the application lot creation fee, take away that $800. And that the Conservation Commission would be willing to pick up $98 for a butter notice and $55 for recording fees, 25 of which goes to L-Chip, which is pretty funny.
What's the chance that the planning board would waive those fees?
I don't know. Can't say.
A couple of questions. That's very good. In fact, that was better than what I was thinking.
Oh, good.
Well, I need information to really know what I had in mind. And the information would be, of these fees, are any of these expenses by the planning board somewhere else? Are there expenses that we have to pay somebody for the planning or for the application fee? Do you understand?
Yeah, that they cover, the application fee covers the Secretary Jane Boucher's time.
Mm-hmm.
The planner's $500 usually to review the plans and look at the subdivision.
So they're
Proposal.
gonna pay somebody to do that, right?
Well,
Or
it
not.
may
That's my
not be
point.
needed in this case because it's not really a subdivision.
Okay.
I mean, it's a subdivision of land, but it's not a subdivision that creates lots that people are gonna build on.
Okay, well then I agree with what you said. Just go for the whole thing and see what they say.
Okay,
In fact,
Do we
add
need
the
a
whole
backup?
thing together. Why,
Hmm?
why even, oh, this is expense. Butters notice, is that postal expense?
yeah, $7 each for the certified mail.
Okay. And recording, we can't get out of that, so.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
So it's $153, which is a little more than $1 an
I was
acre.
gonna say. That's a good deal.
I think that's okay.
Do we need a backup plan if they don't agree to waive the fees?
We probably do, but I can't think of what that would be.
Well, do you think there's a chance they would say, we can waive the planner fee, but you need to pay the application fee or something like, do you want approval for kind of a maximum
Sure.
dollar amount?
I would propose that, my proposal is that if they don't waive the fees, that the Conservation Fund pay whatever it is that needs to be paid.
Yeah.
Because again, this is a donation that's being made to, from Guile. It's worth,
Right.
close to $100,000. It seems a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but I just would feel kind of funny going to Guile and saying, please pay this $1,000.
Too late for them.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I think maybe, what I've been thinking about is, here's money coming out of the Conservation Fund, which we use to protect property, and we're giving it to the planning board we don't give it to them, because actually it goes to the town, right?
Well, it goes to the planner and to the secretary, I think.
Yeah, but I mean. they've
Except for
got
the
money in
$100
the-
lot creation. I don't know what that happens to that. but
I think, whether that's something to use in your discussion.
I will
We'll
do
figure it out.
my best to make sure that the money
know
doesn't
that. We know that.
go in a foolish way, but I can't say what will happen.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Anybody
Yeah.
here who wishes to come on Wednesday, you could help me by just sitting there and looking.
Would it help
Ernest.
if I talked to Fred McGarry on the side? I don't know.
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it for Marston then?
I think it is.
Good. Any updates on Project 35, the Barton, Epsom, Deerfield, Bear Paw?
The appraiser's been paid.
Okay. I'm not really sure what next steps are for that. Maybe Dan will let us know. I guess we have to, at some point, have a discussion about whether we're interested in this project, but it's a little bit hard for me to think about this when we're in the middle of the Marston project.
That's my feeling. It just, we have Boisvert and we have Marston, both of which are gnarly.
Well, they're also costly too. I mean, we're not,
Exactly.
it'd be interesting to find out, and I'm not sure where that would fall, but.
Well, Dan said he was going to
The owner
continue
is-
talking with Epsom and continue on that road since he knows that we're tied up with Marston.
Oh, you're saying he's.
Yeah,
working
he's
with that?
aware. He is
He's
aware
aware
of this.
of, we're involved in other stuff.
Yeah, and he did say that he would continue, he'd keep us in the loop and that he would continue speaking with Epsom because they do want to keep moving. They're very interested.
Yeah. On the back burner.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to sort of see where we're at budget-wise when we're done with these two other projects before we can commit to a new project. And I think we all need a little more bandwidth to put towards something else.
Yes.
Okay, then let's move to the Boisvert conservation easement then. So we're still, it sounds like from the email thread that we're still going back and forth with the surveyor. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, definitely is.
Okay.
Eric is doing a fabulous job on this.
Well,
Yes, he is.
he's
He is doing a very
I'm not
specific,
getting the results I want. I don't know.
he's doing a very diligent job of trying to represent the town interests and being clear that the changes that are appropriate are made, and also getting an accurate bill.
You have a piece of this too, Kate, a very big piece, so.
Well, the both of us are chewing on the
Yeah.
guy, so.
Okay, so we're moving along on this, but.
As
right
is,
now, the ball's in their court.
as is Frank Mitchell. Frank called me today twice. He's the one who did the original research back in November on the status of the Boisvert access and the road issues, put together a very detailed analysis, and he's going to the library tomorrow to look at the town reports for 1931 and 1933 to clarify the exact language and timing of Article 9, because there's some confusion about a number of things. So he's going to try to do that research, and he will get back to me by the end of the week, and I will send that information out to people.
Is there any benefit to loaning him Fran's research so that perhaps he's not reinventing the wheel? I don't know.
I think he already saw that.
I think
but-
he's seen that.
He's seen the file itself, because I had scanned, I think, several things, but that's only a tip of the iceberg as far as
Yeah.
what's in that file.
I don't know, maybe, do you mind calling him, just saying you want to come by and take a look, or have him take a look at it?
I can do that,
That'd be great.
and just
He's
before you
got
leave,
a
give me
much
a
better
phone number.
grasp on this stuff.
I'm not sure I have his phone, so just before you leave.
7562. Landline. Ask me if I call him much.
Pardon?
Ask me if I call him much.
Oh,
7562.
Once we have the survey finally finalized, then we need to finalize the wording on the easement document.
Yes,
But are we
that's on
just-
my to-do list.
Okay,
It's creeping up.
good. Okay. Is that it for Boisford?
Just that we'll hold on the bill, of course. I'm not gonna ask for a vote because there's outstanding stuff.
Okay, we're gonna,
12,000.
what's that?
$12,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't we already vote to approve paying that or not?
We approved 4,000
Okay,
back in February of last year.
okay. But we still have to
That's what
vote.
we paid.
Okay. But let's say you get this settled, let's say, this week, and it would be nice, given how long this has taken, to pay them before the next meeting. So would it be,
Do that.
just make a vote to pay it when it comes due, or when it,
So moved.
So we're talking about $12,000.
12,000?
12,000.
Plus, so in addition to the 4,000?
Right.
So the total is 16?
Okay. So there's a motion on the table to, for Eric to pay the remaining portion of the survey cost for Boisfort. And, Kate
Contingent
has-
upon the approval of Kate Hartnett, final survey and document.
well,
Kate and Frank.
yes.
Kate and Frank.
Contingent on the finalization, satisfactory finalization
Sure.
of the survey document. And we have a second by Kate. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pay the remaining portion, do we want a dollar amount in there, or just the remaining portion of the survey cost contingent on the satisfactory finalization of the survey?
Did you say the amount in there? I'm sorry.
Shall I say the amount in there?
Yes.
Of
No, I can't do it.
$12,000, of the remaining
Not
portion,
to exceed-
$12,000 remaining
Not to
portion.
exceed $12,000.
Not to exceed. On,
Want to make it a little
contingent
higher?
on
Here's a little
satisfactory
wiggle room.
finalization
You might
of
want
the
thinking
survey.
of. We
Not to
didn't-
exceed 13,000.
Yeah.
13, okay.
Let's,
Because Eric and I have to have dinner. I mean, come on. In some faraway place to celebrate.
okay, does that
You
wrap?
guys are going to all your places.
Does that wrap up Boisfort? Okay, we're gonna move to regular business, and I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the January 22nd regular meeting.
Second.
Wes seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yabba-dabba-doo.
Any opposed? Is there a finance officer's report?
Before we do that, may I go back to Boisfort for 1 second? I knew I'd forget asking this, but Eric is very interested in clarifying the process of the Mylars. Once this is all done, do you have an answer yet about that?
Yes, that's to be done by Dan.
Okay.
Of the what?
The Mylar, in other words, the deed has to be registered at the county,
Hmm.
so.
And the survey has to be registered on Mylar, which is a type of material. It's not paper.
I see.
It's sort of the permanent record. So Eric has confirmed that it's going to be done by, now it's confusing because there's Daniel Alone of Barry and then there's Daniel Kern of Bear Paw. So there's two Dans.
Yeah, which Dan's doing it?
Dan Kern.
Dan Kern.
Okay. I feel better. Sorry, go financial.
No, it's actually Eric's turn. He's doing the finance officer's report.
So I'm up, okay. Got a couple of things here. I do have the report for the end of December. I don't have the report for the end of January. On the Conservation Fund. Conservation Fund, there was an error back in February. That's the $4,000.
February of 16?
February 2017.
Oh, 17.
$4,000 check was not charged to the Conservation Fund until December of last year. And I don't know where the error is. It's either or misinformation or whatever, but it's either in accounting or the treasurer. I haven't found the answer yet, but I'll be looking. So the total as of, so this means the part that I really am concerned about is when these things happen, we go for the whole year with an amount of money that's incorrect. we think we have X and we have X minus something now. Thank you. So the total as of the end of December, $350,235.89. There was a small amount of interest, $75.20, and a reduction of $4,000. So coming into December, we had $354,160.69. So I will send this down to Judy, please. Just look ahead, we don't have the report for January yet, but there were land use change fees in the fourth quarter of 2017. And so the practice, by vote of the town, half of that comes to the Conservation Commission. So the commission received $3,805, and that should appear on the January report when that
So that's
appears.
not in, that is not in the 354, correct?
That would be,
The fourth quarter 2017.
right, but it won't show on that report. It'll be on the January
January.
Conservation Fund. So you take the balance at the bottom of the December off of that report. We don't know what the interest is for January, but we do know that $3,805 will be added in January, because
To
it
the
lags a
three.
month.
To the 354.
Yes,
Yeah, so it's 350 minus 4,000 plus interest, plus 3,805 plus January interest will be,
well,
that's what we'll have.
yeah, you got it.
Okay.
And lastly, we have a special situation with the Conservation Fund. Our town, as we know, from what the support we've received from the town in many ways, is very supportive of conservation and protecting open space and the work we do. So the town voted in the past that if there's ever a surplus in the budget at the end of the year for conservation, that would go into the Conservation Fund. So that's another reason why we're trying to be very precise when we do our budget. We don't want to create an overrun, an over surplus situation. We're trying to balance it, ideally, to come down to zero. However, last year, we did not achieve the 0 point. We ended up with a surplus of $695.06. And so that will be added into the Conservation Fund as of, well, in the report for January, if it's done correctly. That's all I have.
Thanks, Eric.
We know that, or is it just expected?
I'm sorry?
We assume, or is that an assumption, or we know that that's actually, that we are, that.
This number?
DCC is, that DCC is actually going to get that surplus.
Oh, yes, no,
Okay, okay.
I've got it right here from the town administrator. So, that's it, folks.
That's all.
Under regulated wetlands, there's an FYI regarding the revised New Hampshire wetland rules. We got several emails about that. I don't know if anyone wants to.
Well, I sent a
Comment on
note
that?
out on this today.
Yeah, you got your thing here, you put the form.
Somehow wetlands, having both of us and many other people concerned about wetlands in the Northern Pass, it just, as soon as I saw that there was going to be these presentations of the new wetland regulations, and I guess they've been working on this for some time. And what I'm told is they're trying to bring it up to a more current standard, and in some ways speed up the process where it makes sense, and not leave things out to speed the process up. I guess we'll find that out, but there's going to be 5 listening sessions, and that's the note I sent out to everybody. But it sounds like a great opportunity to find out about wetlands. I'm going to be there, and I sent this also to our Northern Pass involved people that were involved from Deerfield, because there was a lot of wetland stuff And so that's all I know. But there are going to be 5 sessions. The one in Concord is the end of this month, the 26th of February, and that's going to be, the next closest one, I think, is Pease Air Force Base. And then, maybe you heard about this already, Haley.
Yeah, just for notifications, but.
It's
So-
on, it's on the forum also.
Oh, it's in the forum?
It's in the forum.
Oh. Okay, good. Word's getting out. So, sounds like a good opportunity.
Yeah, I think Denny Gregg sent around an email about this, didn't she? Or was that something
I,
different?
I
Judy
sent,
sent one.
I sent one out with the verbiage from the, I just copied and pasted the forum stuff to you guys.
Great, thanks, Eric.
So, well, we're looking forward to it. Should be a good show, I hope.
We also have a new wetland notification, a complete forestry notification, that is, regarding wetland minimum impact for, map map 414, lot 106-1. I don't know, does anyone?
It's on Lang Road. It's a very big piece of property, but there's only like, from the property card, it's like 4.8 acres wet. And it's just a very, very small portion. It's Blaisdell.
Blaisdell,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a subdivision.
Any comment or discussion on that?
Was this a by notification type?
Minimum impact and
Does it
just
say
a
who's
forestry
doing the logging?
notification. Complete forestry notification. Pardon?
You say who's doing the logging?
No.
Does it say who's doing the logging?
Let me see what it says underneath, who copies went to. Robert Lee with Tyvek. Who's Robert Lee?
With who?
That, it says with Tyvek. So that's the permit, the Tyvek. You send to the forester and they put it on the tree?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Tyvek.
Oh, it'd be the
That's what I thought you
logger.
said.
Yeah, the logger.
Well-
So who's Robert Lee? I don't know that name.
Is there a forester? That's the question.
Right.
So there, we got copied in municipal offices and the district forest ranger got copied in.
My question is it just a logger or is it a forester?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
the almanac.
Yep.
Okay, so, we are now at announcements, correspondence, and reminders, and so we can now let the record show that, as Wes, alluded, we should thank, Kate and Eric for their immense work and, effort and expense and stress and all that went into the Northern Pass testimony.
Here, here.
Yeah, it was a different experience.
Well, I don't know how many people are aware, but the testimony involves 70 days of adjudicatory hearings between April and December 2017. Numerous motions, all kinds of research, all kinds of meetings on the side. It was more than full-time for most mortals involved with it. All volunteer except for a few NGO attorneys.
You ought to put that in the town report.
And I did write
Too late.
a report on Northern Pass, which got accepted by the select board into the town report, which says some of this.
Okay,
I thought Chairman Honigberg's comments at the end of the second day they surprised me. That he was that magnanimous. Because I never thought that he would vote the way he did, or that it would go the way it did. But he's talked about all the folks that were non-lawyers, who many could have become lawyers. passed
Thank you
bar.
for noticing that. I would say that it was the most distasteful experience I've been involved with as a professional in over 40 years in terms of the issue that we were addressing, because the representations of the applicant were so inaccurate, and I'll just leave it at that, I won't go on. But I also, and the process was really very intensely invasive to anybody's life, as an understatement. On the other hand, the best, coolest, most real New Hampshire people showed up. And it was an honor to be in that group of humans. Wonderful, wonderful, wide range, everybody from Pittsburgh down to Deerfield and in between. Extraordinary number of people. Huge intelligent experience. I mean, you know, people who are talented beyond belief with all kinds of professional backgrounds stepped up, knowing what they were talking about, and that was so refreshing given the absence of that by the applicant. And that was one thing. And then the second thing is, don't ever play poker with any of the 7 people on the SEC, because they gave absolutely no indication to any of the others or any of the people in the room what they were thinking. And it's my understanding that because of the rules of the process, no one on the SEC knew in advance of their vote how each of them was going to vote.
I heard they'd taken a straw poll.
They took a straw poll that morning,
Yeah, in front of us, right there.
but it was
It was in the
5-2, as my understanding, but the 2 people opposed were not opposed on content, they were opposed on process, because it wasn't clear to them if they could speak out at this point and what would happen next. So they, over lunch, worked out the process parts and came back and then took an official vote. It was 7-zip. And
Great.
nobody, that was truly, the word stunning is totally true for everybody.
So I don't know if this is the right place, but I have a question. And you obviously probably can't answer it here if you can answer it at all. I've been doing a lot of research over the last few years for this book I'm writing on sustainable energy. And I've come to believe that we really do have enough energy available to us to get all of our energy from sustainable energy. But that's going to involve major infrastructure projects. And the question is, A, should we be doing this? And B, how do you get good projects as opposed to this? I mean, is there a distinction? I think there is.
Wes, I don't know how long you have. I'll be quick. It's 8:15, but there were 46 projects responding to the Massachusetts request for proposals. Most of them used 21st century technology and 21st century methods, i.e. burying cables under Lake Champlain or down existing interstate highways, or within existing right-of-ways on poles the same height as the poles already in the right-of-ways, or from the Atlantic provinces via submarine cable into Massachusetts. Nobody else proposed towers higher than the State House going 192 miles through the heart and core of the state. So, first of all, there are plenty of other options, plenty.
No, I understand there are, but how do we get to them as a, this is the wrong place to ask it, but this is what I'm
No.
struggling with.
No, it's not. I mean, I also, we can talk about this later, but I would probably suggest that major infrastructure projects may not be as necessary as you suggest. And it's because the real innovation is happening in other states than New Hampshire, specifically, most importantly, in the Northeast New York State, with some also efforts in Vermont and a few others around the edges to find ways to go from centralized major transmission projects from far away with all kinds of engineering into what's called distributed generation, where everybody has a little piece of the action. For instance, Sarita's Prius could be charging into the grid and storing power when it's not being driven.
I understand that.
distributed
We're not gonna
generation.
get, from what I'm reading, we're not gonna get there from residential solar.
No,
Which is what we need more, this is the wrong place. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry I brought it up, but I just recognize this is not a Conservation Commission discussion.
well,
but
it
I'd
is,
love
let me
to-
just say at the macro level that there are very few people who understand the full elephant of energy policy in New Hampshire. And that's unfortunate, because there are many options that aren't even on the table. I'll just leave it at that. We all have people who grab parts of the elephant and they're all yelling about it, but no one's got the elephant, in my opinion. It's happening in other states more creatively and collaboratively, not adversarially, which is the main important difference.
Thanks.
Power, like politics, should be local.
Let the record reflect the wisdom of Ms. Judy Marshall.
Are there other announcements, correspondence, or reminders?
I have an announcement.
Mhm.
I'm not going to take people's time, but I have done part of my homework and I have returned in this stack to officially hand over to Judy some things that I've had for quite a while in regard, because of Northern Pass issues, quite a bit of wetland application information, which is going back into the files, happily.
Anything else?
And you are going to retain on the agenda or someplace, or I'll keep it on the agenda in the wetlands notifications, the cyber permit?
Yes, what Judy's saying, I spoke to her a little bit at the beginning of the meeting. On Coffeetown Road, there's a wetland application for a lot, 5-acre lot, that involves crossing a wetland, ironically adjacent to the PSNH right-of-way. It's an area where there's confirmed both Blanding's turtles and several snakes of concern in the area, and as part of this Conservation Commission intervention, the permit requires a report by December 1st of the year that things constructed. So I think we need to follow up and have a site inspection there, so it's on the agenda.
And then, before you leave, just point out which one it is, because we had a couple of permits for that, for the cyber, so I just wanna make sure I got the right one in there.
Just one wetland permit, I think. It's to fill a bunch of wetland.
The Coffeetown Road,
Yes,
okay,
just one.
just the,
That's it.
Before we go, I've got one thing. Kate, thank you for those signs on the scenic roads.
Oh, yes!
I've been on a few scenic roads lately over the last number of months, and it's really neat.
who did
You get
that?
on the road, and there's that great
they're
sign,
nice,
and it'll
yeah.
say, hey, this is a scenic road.
Yeah, it is
You
nice,
know?
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
My
those are
husband was
nice.
asking me, George wanted to know, he says, where'd that come from? I said, I don't know. He says, so Mount Eliza Scenic, our Meeting House Hill is a scenic road? I said,
Oh, yeah.
I guess so.
Oh, yeah.
One good thing from Eversource.
What happened
after they
is
did
that
what they did.
there was a new service installed on Perry Road, and the utility claimed that they did not know it was a scenic road.
And they
And
cut
so
a bunch
they
of trees.
cut an entire frontage of somebody's.
So that was mitigation.
So Joanne Bradbury is actually the person who suggested that we try to get signs. And I
Very nice
listened.
signs.
And I just took it. I got nowhere with the staff, so I went up to somebody that I knew for a long time, and he made it happen, and so it's a
From
win-win.
Eversource?
Win-win. Mhm.
From Eversource?
Yes.
was? Okay, so Eversource
That's cool.
provided the signs?
They paid for them, every
They
single
paid for
penny.
them? Okay.
Because
The
of
only thing the
their-
town had to do was that the road agent had to install them. That was it.
Oh, we want it done right.
And that was mitigate, is mitigation a correct word to use in this
Yes.
case? Okay.
For, there's an
For
RSA, which
unauthorized
there's an
tree-
RSA,
tree
which is you can't cut on a scenic road without a public hearing. And the utility, for some reason unknown to any of us, neglected to have the notice of the public hearing and hold up with the planning board. So it's not magic, they paid for the price of the signs.
And the signs are located in various areas around this?
On every single scenic road in Deerfield.
Can't
Okay,
miss 'em.
so, okay.
And we, I guess, could put a thank you to the road agent for installing those.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. There's one currently right now suffering from vandalism, and some of the abutters are trying to work with the road agent to address that.
Wasn't a snowplow?
Hmm?
Not a snowplow?
No, it's something else. But thank you, Eric. Yes, that was
Well,
another little bright light in an otherwise challenging couple of years. And the only thing else I will say as an announcement is that despite the stunning decision by the SEC, there's a lot of politics still at play. I don't know if people heard the governor today, but
I did.
most people don't understand the SEC process, which is unfortunate, which is why I wanted to take the time to explain a little bit about what it was. It wasn't just a bunch of tree huggers waving signs every once in a while. It was a huge, 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 very complicated, extensive process. So the applicant had specific burdens of proof that are not being cited by the press, so most people don't understand how miserably they represented themselves. It's really embarrassing.
they were quick to condemn before they even knew what naysayers.
And
including
presumably the
governor.
decision will be appealed, I imagine,
Oh, absolutely.
and this will all happen all over again.
Depends whether or not the SEC, there are 4 criteria. This is it'll be in the annual report. There's 4 criteria that any applicant has to meet under the SEC process. They pass the first one, which is financial, managerial, and technical capability. They flunk the second one, which is no negative impact on orderly development. There's still 2 others where there's no decision yet, because all you had to do is flunk 1 out of 4, and you can't get the
Well, if
applicant.
they flunked the second one, I can't see how they'd get past aesthetics, which is the third one.
And then there's and then there's an
Public
environmental
interest.
impact, and then there's the public interest.
But how is that related to an appeal? Are they guaranteed a new hearing, or?
No,
No,
don't they
the
have to?
SEC has to decide whether or not to accept their application.
Would they have to prove they've made progress on the,
Nope, it's on the existing record.
What, the first thing they're gonna do, though, is to request that they continue the hearing, that they,
No, they can ask for
uh,
ask for reconsideration. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure they've ever done that. The SEC, I think, has never done that.
to reopen, the way I understood was that they were going to ask them to reopen it and
No, I
and
don't
make
know. I
them
think there's a
continue
lot
to
of these
the
stories going
negotiation.
around. We don't know what's gonna happen, but
No,
There's a
the,
great deal of
the next step
uncertainty.
would be if they can't do anything with the SEC, then it's Supreme Court of New
then,
Hampshire.
yeah.
I understand they're also trying through legislation to try to
Correct.
get,
Oh, yeah, well, they're working that all the time.
Change
We've
the
got-
process.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what's this business about 1 year?
Yeah,
And
it's,
just, in other words, just void the whole process that just occurred?
well, if it's not done in a year, then give it to them anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, how's that sound? Is that good?
that's great.
That's called,
So the more
Scientific thinking.
complicated and the lousier application you get, the more certain you are to get an application. It's perfect
drag your
legislation.
feet, just get past that 1 year.
Right. Just give a lousy application and make sure it's really complicated, and you're guaranteed an approval.
Oh, they did the lousy application.
Truly, truly, it is. I mean, if people have the time, I wish someone could write it up, because it is,
You can't make this stuff up.
No, true.
if it were for lower stakes, it would be very good on, what is that? It's like Saturday Night Live or something. You just can't believe it. So,
You looking
Anyhow.
for an adjournment?
thank you all.
That'd be
It's
awesome.
really been an interesting
Yeah,
journey.
Move adjourned.
Oh,
I
one other thing.
second.
Oh, one more thing.
One more thing. I forgot to mention this. This is in the back of my mind about the involvement that we both had. The criterion that Northern Pass did not meet had to do with orderly development. The town of Deerfield was central in that argument, and I think it reflected 30 years of work by the Planning Board and Conservation Commission to clarify, and the citizens, to clarify the community character and vision for the town, and have it be very stated in a very definitive way. And that was really very helpful to have in the process.
Well, I think wasn't it Honigberg that commended the towns that in advance of all of this happening had master plans? In other words, they didn't just throw together a master plan after Northern Pass came in and said, we wanna ruin everything. We already had the master plan
Yeah.
in place.
And I happen to have a 2-column list that goes on for 4 pages that shows accomplishments in both Planning and Conservation Commission over the last 30 years in Deerfield, which I use to keep my spirits up when things are dark. So I just used that and put it in the record and talked about it.
Awesome.
So that was very unexpected. I never expected 30 years of sitting here at planning board meetings to come in such handiness, but it certainly did. So that was a very nice gift, as well as all the cool people we got to hang out with.
Great bunch.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to
All
adjourn.
done.
We have a
So
second.
blah, blah, blah.
All in
Enough of that.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, Kate
Okay.
and all.
Thank you all. Judy.
Thanks, Judy.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll follow up on the public hearings
Haley, is
Yeah.
Yes.
Hubbard's one of
and the
your,
language that I need to say.
That's mine, yep.
that's
But I gotta run.
you're the,
I'm
educational.
the whole show.
You're the whole, oh,
No, I bring other
I really
people
don't want
in
any of this crap.
over
you
the
know.
4-day
bugging me
workshop.
for months.
I'm-
This is from
Drive the
our,
ship.
this is for
you're the
Hamilton
director,
File.
Yeah.
It's the
organizer,
Yep.
Forest Management Plan.
marketer,
We should have a
and
copy.
and all that.
communicator, great.
File.
It's a great
Really?
program.
It is, it's
Because there
really
isn't
fun.
one there.
Mm.
I know there
You
isn't.
know, this
Okay.
will be my
Giles getting rid of it. She
fifth
gave it
year
to me.
with
I'm
it,
giving
or
it
sixth
to
year with
you.
it, yeah, so it's, but it's fun. Like,
This is
always a
cyber.
good group of people.
It has
Oh, yeah.
Like,
notes
comes
for
right
me,
at the
but I
time
don't
in the
really
year when I
care.
need some like reminding that I like love
Yeah.
my job.
This
and,
is-
you know,
Right.
it's fun. I
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
spend 4 days with like great people,
Right.
and
Oh,
so yeah,
that's-
it's good.
The,
It's really
So where is it held now? Is it out west?
We've
Test
been doing
pit.
it in Greenfield at
Okay.
the
Yeah,
Barbara
now
C.
this is
Harris
cyber
Center.
test pit.
It's
isn't
like
No,
a
no, this is Northern
nice
Pass.
facility.
Well,
So
Mhm.
that's,
haven't
well,
been
that's
able to
what,
bring
that's
myself
why
to
I'm
see it
asking
because
Yeah.
like
about
these
this,
nice
'cause I've
cabins and
got,
bathrooms in them. They're like
Whoa.
pretty new. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's not as rustic as it once was, but
I remember we-
because
I was
what year did you do it?
1999.
Yeah, so you might have been at the
McCarran, extension of time, PSNH G146
Oh,
maintenance.
blanking on the name.
That's this one right here.
Well, I can,
I had it up at Berry Conservation Camp years ago.
NPT test
And
pits,
then they
That's this
that's
right
the
here.
cyber coffee town,
Sergeant
right?
Center. they
That's
did
this
it
right here.
for a while.
So that's the cyber
Yeah.
coffee town. This is the one that we're
That was
keeping
one
open, the
spot, but-
2017
Yeah, it was definitely more rustic than it
01534.
is now.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
This is
I find-
Northern
I find if
Pass
people are
test pits.
comfortable, they learn better.
That's this one.
sure, well, yeah, that's a good
And then
idea.
the
This
cyber
is
coffee
cyber is
town.
red. That's this
No,
one.
it's fine.
That's a
Great.
5-acre,
Okay, well,
oh, can you?
that's going strong.
Oh, my God.
See you, Judy. See you, Kate.
Bye-bye.
Haley.
Night. Can I ask you about a question?
Yes.
You know what? Did I record this? Yeah, I guess I did.